So my name is Krisztina Kapuvari. I am a 3-times founder. I have some businesses here and there, but mainly I know of theSPACE, which is a business incubator in Benin Republic that I started myself. And with Chandler, we have a long history together. We met in 2017. I volunteered in his organization, one of them, because he has many as well, in the USA in Seattle. And then last year we reconnected. I mean, we never really like drifted apart anyway, but we reconnected for a purpose of starting a business together, which is a venture capital firm. And so that's where we are right now. I also, work towards adding my inputs to 360 as an innovation strategist as well. And I'm also a business consultant, and I am a child of God, so I'm also a Christian business consultant as well as an evangelist. So that's what I do. I am very, very super busy. I'm also a trainer, but then that's in summary about me. And it's nice to meet with everyone. Thank you so much for the chance to come here. I want to just honor Chandler and what Chandler is doing, because he's doing a fantastic job to connect globally different cultures, different people, the global north, the global south, and create opportunities for entrepreneurs, which is one of the main things that I absolutely adore about Chandler in creating these kind of spaces. And also thank you so much, Claudie, to organizing this.
It's a pleasure. So you are also somebody who helped a lot of entrepreneurs, if I understood right. Here, let's start speaking, if you want, about seeds of ecosystem building. So you founded theSPACE in Benin, an incubator that has launched, I think, over 100 ventures. And I would like to know, what were the most meaningful ecosystems gaps you observed? What brought you there to, I'm very curious to know. And if you want, through all this, to share your vision as a builder and incubator through your story.
Of course. That's... Oh, sorry. Okay. I thought there was a question, but yeah, so basically, I think it's a really good question. What brought me to Benin Republic? Let me start there first. So I volunteered there for...
Oh, I think we have a microphone open. Let me see here.
We should be good to go. Klausy, I think it was coming from Klausy.
Did you hear something as well, or is it just me?
It was, somebody was unmuted, so I think that was
okay.
There's just something in the background. I don't know what it was, but I heard it.
Okay, no worries. Sorry about the disturbance. So yeah, basically, just to start there, what brought me to Benin Republic? So I'm a Hungarian. I was born in Hungary, and then I often reflect on this journey, like how did I get there? So it was a long story, but I'm gonna keep it to the point, because I think it's relating to entrepreneurship, to move out in faith and do things, even though sometimes people want to speak you out of doing things. So I went to Ghana in the middle of the Ebola pandemic or epidemic, or what was that, and everybody wanted to speak me out of it, but I had to go there. I felt this calling since I was a child to go to that area. So I went there to volunteer. I helped in a kindergarten and nursery. It was a fantastic experience, new culture, learning about myself, learning about a lot of things. And then what happened was I realized that in that environment, so basically I realized how much privileged I am to be born in Europe and in the time when I was born, because I realized my parents' time, Hungary looked very, very different. And so I saw this opportunity of young people full of ambitions, but the environment is really like pressuring really much, like there is nothing really available. So I was used to, by that point, to like sit in a bus in Hungary and have free Wi-Fi, where on the other side of the world you have to pay a lot of money. So I went to Ghana first, then I went to Benin Republic for a year as a marketing director volunteering, and in that time I had 100 megabyte. I think you guys need to understand, 100 megabyte of 1 week worth of internet for me. That's all I had as a marketing director in this digital world. So that was like such a awakening for me to realize that there are talented people who are less privileged because of just the way where they were born, like the place where they were born. And so I thought, yeah, this is something that I want to work on. But then it took me a long time to realize the solution could, what format that solution can take, because essentially I was just a young person and I didn't have investment, I didn't have money. I just had the willingness to work and do something, whatever it takes, basically. So that's a very entrepreneurial mindset in me. And then I went to the USA. That's where I met Chandler, and that's where I got the chance to meet the solution. So I met the problem in Ghana, in Benin Republic, and then I met the solution in Seattle. So I saw this vibrant community of founders in a startup hall in Seattle, and I was like, wow. Only if I had access to a place like this, like an office where I can just have internet unlimitedly accessible for me in Benin, how much more our team could have achieved. So this is kind of like the idea where it came from, and how it came to pass. It was also a very interesting story. So I talked to people about this idea. That's why I usually offers an advice to people who are starting out, that you can't just have an idea in your brain and just leave it there. You have to actually explore it, even just by talking about it. So I talked about it with someone, and the person was like, yeah, you know what, because you seem really passionate about this, so you know what, I'm going to give you some money to start it. So that was the initial seed investment that I needed to actually rent out a place. So within 3 months I was there. I was renting a place in Benin Republic, and I already had a network of founders and businesses that I knew I want to invite in the first round. And then I had a global connection of like 200 people who are like from different parts of the world, who were interested in actually like giving knowledge and guiding, mentoring, coaching people from the other side of the world to start businesses. And then so that's where it all started. And then I think your question was about ecosystem gaps, and I think that's a really good point. It is very different. It is very different in West Africa. Right now, there's a lot of improvement. So, for instance, there are more and more initiatives of incubators coming. Even the government is now started to actually build this, like actively invest in this ecosystem. But there is still so much to go, especially if I want to compare it to the USA. So that's like light years away, basically. But yeah, so the main thing is, my issue was that I didn't have localized mentorship in my incubator. So all of our mentors were global, so they didn't have the context. They didn't understand, and I think Chandler can talk about this. I would love to invite him to say his experience with Kenny, because I remember he called me once. He's like, I can't believe this guy is always late. And I was like, yeah, I understand that. But you know, you need to understand that it's raining in his country. And Chandler was like, raining, and what? And I'm like, when it rains, it's like heavy, like internet cuts, electricity cuts, everything cuts for hours, days. And so this guy is fighting for his life, basically. So give him a minute, you know. So there is so much of this kind of contextual understanding that is missing. And another thing is access to any sort of resources is extremely limited. Is everything is expensive. You have to pay so much money for internet, so much money for printing, so much, like everything is expensive compared to the local reality. So if you want to build something, nobody is there ready to throw money at it. And I think that was another thing that Chandler and I were like, we were kind of joking about, because I love the way the US mentality is. It's like, you know, let's just throw money at it and then we'll fix the rest, because that, you know, but how much is true, I don't know, but I could see this. There is access to capital that is like made it easy, administration lower in sense of like accessing capital. Even if you look at the European market when it comes to grants or anything, you would see that there is a lot of paperwork necessary to get access to funding. like so much of invoicing, and every cent needs to have like a really solid documentation behind it, and there is a justification process. And I know the US has similar things, but not this depth, I believe. So there is a lot of like this kind of gap access to capital. What they use, which is their very specific solution, is microfinancing or sort of community financing. So that's a different topic, and I don't want to go into it. But yeah, these traditional ways of accessing money, borrowing from loans, financial instruments from different banks, getting a car is like, you guys, in the UK, I basically got a car with zero deposit, and it was just given to me, and I just pay some money every month, and that's it. But if that concept doesn't really, is not accessible, even renting an apartment, you have to put down, I think I put down, I don't know how many months of deposit I had to put down, but it was unusual for me coming from the European background. It was really long, like the amount of money I had to put down on the table, even just to get the key. So, so just to summarize again, access to early stage capital, and like this kind of mindset of accepting traditional ways of loans and financial instruments, and then localized mentorship. And then the other one I wanted to mention, which is the major gap, is the community trust. I think that's one of the other things, that entrepreneurship, especially young people being entrepreneurs, is looked at very risky, and it looked at something that, oh, what young people can bring to the table, well, I'm not sure about it, you know. So they kind of look down at young people. And I apologize if I offend anyone. I'm just giving my opinion and giving my observations, basically. I don't have any scientific background in this area.
Thank you so much. I want to go back a little bit on what you said. You know, when you have this idea in your head, this entrepreneurial spirit, and you need to speak about it, there is something you need to do, you know, this energy. I'm a French Canadian in Brazil, and I relate to that. So let's go see to the other side. Instead of the gaps, let's see what is constant, you know, consistent when you're building a startup ecosystem. You know, because you said you had experience across West Africa, Europe, North America, and are there any factors you think, you know, an energy that is consistent?
There are certain things, certain factors that are consistent. So I coach and consult with entrepreneurs from basically all over the world, but mainly Africa, UK, Europe / USA. So one of the main things in the early stages of starting a business, what I found that is, regardless cultures, regardless anything, is probably more to do with the founder themselves and their confidence, is more to do with connections, networks that they are able to utilize, understanding that they already have resources in their hands, is more kind of like credibility, building up credibility. Like these are the factors that everybody has to go through. Like there is no shortcut to this. Like you can't just buy yourself customers. It's not working that way. It's very, very difficult to build these things up. That takes time, network, credibility, and basically capital readiness. Like that's another thing that it just takes time. And people think that, you know, overnight success is something that they can achieve. But I think that's kind of the consistency and understanding there is power in storytelling. Many people don't understand that it's so powerful as a tool in the early stages, and even the whole time, basically running a business at any stage, storytelling is where the power is. So that's what I see as a consistent factors across, regardless of cultures, regardless of locations. So that's what I noticed. And also another thing that I noticed is that you have no idea how much other people would want to support you until you actually talk to them about it. So people are afraid to speak about their ideas or present their ideas. And then once they do it, they can act. There are people who are going to speak against it, isn't it? But that's just what life is anyway. Any ideas you come up with, as I said, I went to Ghana in the middle of the what's it called, Ebola pandemic or epidemic, and everybody was saying, no, don't go there, you're gonna, you know, this and that. But that is just a genuine thing. But there are people who are actually ready to support. So when I told my idea about the space to someone who was patiently listening, by the end of our meeting, he said, here is some money. So there are actually people out there willing to support, willing to sow in. There are volunteers you can call on. And people don't necessarily understand the value of not just financial support, but knowledge support and support with actually doing things for you. Even if I offer my service like bartering, that's another thing that people not necessarily understand, that in the beginning you can actually barter with other people. You can offer your services in exchange of their services, so you can both build each other. So these are the consistent factors that I saw. I don't know if I'm talking along the line of your question. I really hope so. I am.
Oh, you are perfect.
No,
Don't
Krisztina,
worry.
I think so
It's very
too.
interesting.
And, you know, maybe this is where I can chime in, Krisztina, because I think one of them, you know, when we talk about what is a constant across the, oh, we've got somebody in the waiting room here.
Can I ask you, sorry, Chandler.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
yeah.
I don't want to cut your flow, but I was just asking if my fathom can be added, please.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
We're recording this as well, Krisztina, so you can get
Oh, perfect.
So one of the questions that was just asked was, you know, what is a constant? What's the constant change? And or like, what is a constant? And I think a constant is change. But what I also think, you know, it's interesting that you and I, starting back in 2017 together, you know, I look back and I think a constant has been values, right? A continuous desire. I think one of the critical things that sets a good entrepreneur apart, or like a great entrepreneur apart from a good entrepreneur, is people that are willing to invest in the relationships. And the ones that are most often misguided are the ones that lose sight of their values as they build their products. And so for me, a constant is always finding people like you, but also recognizing that at the end of the day, everybody has a core set of values that they align their lives with. And at the end of the day, there's also Maslow's needs, which for me was a really important learning from working with Kenny, because you know, not having food, not having shelter, not having security, you can't meet your other needs until you can meet those. And so understanding those values and the background of what brings people to do this work, entrepreneurship is such a deep and, you know, consuming activity of life, you know. And so I also think recognizing that you, at the end of the day, we also can't change what people need, right? Like people still need minimum amount of support, you know, minimum amount of food, you know, to be able to sustain this. And I think that's what a lot of people in the global north miss about the the realities of building outside of a privileged space. So
Chandler, you know what? Can I say I miss you so much? Because your wisdom is so profound, and you just summed it up so perfectly. The values and yeah, finding the right people, making sure that you are connected to them, you know, understanding their point of view, their needs, and walking in their shoes. Empathy. And you know, in the business world, often people kind of disregard these kind of qualities and skills. And I think that's a major mistake. And one of the things, I think some of the questions later on we will discuss about this, but one of the main issues I see between the global north and the global south is this disconnect of build on. So let me just quickly say that before I went to Ghana first time in my life, first time going to Africa to volunteer, first time in the region, first time of leaving Europe in general. I've never been outside of the continent, and I know how I picked that place. So picking that place, I was interviewing with many other locations to volunteer there. And I remember I had Burkina Faso on my list, but they didn't answer to me in time. And I was like, in me, that built a distrust that, okay, maybe they are unable to handle things. And then same thing with Ethiopia. I was messaging them, and in 2 weeks, they didn't answer to me. And I was like, okay, they are not very organized. So that was my assumption. So these assumptions, these stereotypes are really, really bad when it comes to building trust, because you don't understand what the other person is going through. So how can you know that that person was probably in a blackout for 2-3 days, 4 days, 5 days, and they didn't have data to answer to me, you know? Like, later on I understood when I went there and I started working with within the same organization that recruits the volunteers. So you see, not having that empathy, not having that compassion to understand what the other person is walking in. So that's kind of not that's kind of a major issue in building these bridges. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's speak of values too, about how you help develop programs for more than 600 women with a, what is it called, Transform Network. So could you speak a little bit about that? What innovations or mindsets, we're speaking of values, but what about the mindsets that make this entrepreneurship more accessible and empowering for female founders?
So that program, well, it was more like an online program that we built, and it was, so the Transform Network basically is a global program of one of our esteemed leader in the faith. So it's a Christian program for Christian women around the world, 600 members and counting. And so I'm the head of business department as a volunteer in this organization. And so I was tasked to do this program because there are many of us in this network that we want to actually build ventures and businesses, but then everybody's kind of either in the beginning or they started, but then, you know, obstacles and all those things come to the way. So one of the main things that I was personally focused on is to give some tools that I found very useful in my journey to start. And so it was also about accountability, because you can have good tools, but you know, if you don't hold yourself accountable, you don't have yet the capacity to, because that's what entrepreneurship is, isn't it? That you set your own goals, you set your own terms, you set your own accountability. You are accountable to yourself, basically, and as a Christian, you're accountable to God. Like these are the things that you have. So I wanted to make sure that they have a peer-based accountability, so that they are linked together with their peers to kind of track each other a little bit. So that was one thing. It had to be very flexible in terms of submitting assignments, because it had some assignments in it. And I wanted them to shift their mind from thinking of themselves as little, because one of the main things I noticed, especially for women, but I don't see that much of men when I work with men, but with women, and again, I'm talking about my own experience and I'm not trying to stereotype, but this is my experience. So as women, we kind of tend to navigate towards like, can I do this? Like, do I have it, what it takes? Am I
Or sorry, I think you are wrong. Or sorry, I think it's different. Saying sorry before knowing that you are actually going to bring something better to the table, right? There is also this mindset.
Wait, say that again, please. Sorry, I didn't catch it.
Oh, well, I interrupted you. I said one other example, you know, is saying sorry for adding something very relevant to the table.
we downplay our value. Like that's basically it. So that had to be this narrative shift in our minds. That was part of the program, to shift the narrative from, you know, am I valuable, to, yeah, I'm leading with my value, because I am actually valuable. I am actually contributing. I have ideas that can actually change the situation for better, whether it's in the workplace or actually starting a business and running a business that can shape industries, for instance. So just to have that mindset shift as well. So this was where I was focusing on. And this program, I have to tell you honestly, it had to be cut short because people were struggling to follow it. And I realized that, you know, we need to roll back a little bit, and then let me just run with the people who are ready, and then the rest of the group who is not necessarily ready yet, they just have this little idea and they don't even know if it's actually the idea for them. So I had to roll it back to talk about, you know, Ikigai is my favorite tool for the very beginnings for everyone. You're smiling, Claudia. I'm sure that you've heard of it. So it's basically more looking into what you are good at, what you are skilled at, what you are passionate about, what the world needs, and what you can make money off, basically sustain yourself financially from, get paid for. So these are 4 quadrants, and when they meet, so this is more like a reflection. And women, we are very, I mean, we run in a different manner. So we are very reflective, very also very community based. So we need that peer support, we need that reflection time, we need that internalization and understanding of who we are. And you know, it's a very different journey than when I worked with, because in Benin, most of the entrepreneurs I helped, who are really like, they were really embedded into our incubator, our office. They come in, day out. They are men, most of them. So, but then the other people with other programs that helped, it was mainly women and disabled people. But yeah, so basically, men run a different mindset. So for me, that was very important to shift that narrative of, you know, whether am I valuable, to, oh yeah, 100%.
That's amazing. I guess beyond giving tools to these women, I think the network is very important. And in my journey, it helped me a lot just to meet other women that were taking these, that had this entrepreneurial spirit. And, you know, just to know that the difficulties we face, it's not a lack of perspective, it's real. And this network gives us the strength to keep going and say, okay, I'm not crazy. Let's keep going and let's believe in ourselves, which is so important too.
Can I also ask, Claudia, because I think that's very, what you said, that the seeing, just to be able to see. So representation, obviously very, very important. We know about that, but representation for a woman as well, specifically imagining that, you know, if somebody, I saw somebody else who actually achieved something, a woman looking like me, and they were able to, you know, break through so many glass ceilings and all those things. Because even though, face it, there is still a gender pay gap in the UK, one of the most developed economy in the world, we still face that gender pay gap. The thing that you said about, you know, saying sorry, of course we say sorry, because constantly we are, you know, what's the word, our contribution is disregarded all the time. And I sit at tables, so I had that heavily in Africa, that as a woman sitting at a table of men, it was really difficult to let them hear my voice, because they were not really interested. But if I said it to someone else and asked the person to say the same idea, that idea was accepted. So, but I don't want to complain, because we are all different, isn't it?
I have
Yeah.
a question for you, Krisztina, and I think we have personally worked on this together, but I love your reflection, because we spent 5 weeks together every day, and then I haven't seen you since. So and it's okay. But what I mean is, we haven't gotten a chance to reflect on what the experience you had. Let's talk a little bit about Brazil specifically.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say about.
Yeah, was, and also your experience the first time trying to raise a lot of money in this environment. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh, Chandler, so good. So I wanted to, because Claudia mentioned something about seeing women. So remember when we done that training slash workshop with the women in one of the incubators that we are partnering with as 360 Social Impact Studios, and also Transform Network, interestedly. So we done this workshop, and women came up to us, remember, Chandler, and said that nobody done anything like this for us here in this incubator. All of their sessions are technical, like functional, like you can do this and this and this, but we brought someone who spoke basically life into them as a woman example in front of them, and they were really appreciative that we tackled the situation, not just here is a tool, use it, but then here is someone who actually done a lot of things and very inspirational and can speak to you as a woman speaking to an other fellow founder. So I don't know if do you remember that, Chandler, that this conversation went that. So that was really a positive confirmation for me that what Chandler, you and me, we were doing, it was really beneficial for the people who came, and it's something that we need to work on. Reflection on the fundraising. I'm still like, I love working with you, Chandler. When I look at you, you inspire me. You inspire me because you are so positive. You are visionary. You have the goals you have and the way that you can express them and talk about it. Again, people underestimate the value of storytelling, but you have that capacity. So sitting next to you, seeing you explaining the same thing that I try to explain on my own, it was really, really beneficial. I learned a lot. In me, I'm still like,
I learned a lot from you, Krisztina, because sitting, this is the value of collaboration and perspective, global perspective. I think the way we see the ecosystem working together requires multiple perspectives on the same issue. Because let's take the US, for example. We're sitting in an echo chamber of people who don't believe vaccines work or are safe. Yet we both live in regions where without vaccines, millions of people would die and have died. And, so I think the sitting together next to you taught me the value of having a diverse perspective, because I'm not always right, and that's good. But I also recognize that I only have a limited perspective from what I can see of an issue based on my own experiences, right? And so this collaboration, this challenge, how has it changed you? What do you do differently now because of it?
I think I believe in myself a bit more because you got to show me, not necessarily like you sit me down and told me, but it's more like the things that you challenge me to do, which I naturally try to avoid doing. For instance, the fundraising. Like I think, I don't know if it's a women thing or it's a Christy specific thing, but I naturally try to not do fundraising. Naturally try to not talk to people who I perceive that they have higher value than me. I feel so little when I look at them. So when you encourage me to like reach out to your network, you have people in your network, and I'm like, okay, let me see that. And then we were finding like these incredible people in the network that I'm somehow connected to, and I'm like, wait, hang on a minute, was this always in my network? So that these are the things that shaped me. And then, of course, learning from the storytelling side of how to fundraise, how to build connections that actually matter, and then sustain them. Again, life can come into place. Because there's a lot of things to deliver and there's lots of things to deal with, but so basically these were the main things that I kind of took out of that. Living with people who are drastically different than me it was always part of my life for the last 10 years, so that's kind of like okay. But I never lived with, I think it's in your name, neurodivergent, so that was like an experience on its own. which I'm really grateful to God that I had the experience to live, and also the different generations, because yourself and myself, we are the same generation, but we had another colleague around who was Gen Z. So there was a lot of interesting conversations around how we do things and how we make each other accountable. And so that was also very, very, very interesting.
Thank you. That's very insightful. Let's go to your strategist side, Krisztina. And I would like to know, with all the experiences that you told us today, how you balance high-level program design with ground-level realities. Because we speak of, also I recognize what you said about Chandler having this vision, and then how do we make this vision happen is something else. And when you have small access to resources, but you have this fire to build this vision, or when you are mentoring ventures and you see a vision, you see what they can do, but when you're caught in the beginning, sometimes it's hard to think, oh, I can do it, and then what brings experience. So I don't know if my question was clear, but it's about mostly balancing high-level progress with smaller realities.
No, it's such a brilliant question. So thank you so much. Basically, I think I had someone in Benin, right? This guy came up to me and said, listen, I want to have this observatory built because there is none in my country. And I was like, okay, let's look into the costs. And he told me, yeah, telescope, this much, this much, this much. And I was like, okay, fine. What do you have at hand? And he was like, yeah, nothing. So I was like, okay, fine. The vision is fantastic. A vision is very powerful. Vision is very needed because that can drive you. But then we need to, as you said, balance it out with what is on the ground. So which is usually resource scarcity. But my main thing, what I always do with people with a brilliant giant vision, is that break it down to smaller pieces. So even on the same direction, I was able to transform his idea, which the angle is still the same, right? The vision is still the same, it didn't change, but he more looked into, okay, what can I do now? So what was the behind that vision? Behind that vision was that ensuring that young kids in Benin have access to STEAM, like science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education, and they fall in love with it. And they then look into aerospace and aerospace, invention, science, whatever. So basically, okay, I was asking him questions around it, and we basically cut it into a smaller piece and said, okay, you don't have what it requires to build that observatory, or whatever telescope giant thing is, but you could do things along the line of the same vision. So by now, it's been 5 years. By now, he's part of some sort of NASA like local program. So he built a network. Basically, he started to do design a magazine that is for African kids. It's 2 African astronauts, female astronauts, in a space station. That's the magazine about. He has some storylines, he has some characters developed, and then from there he started to build the network, the connections, and just find ways to get closer to his vision, which I believe that he's going to do in his lifetime. So breaking it down to smaller pieces, that's number one. When we design a program, for the ecosystem, because this is a very funder personal one-on-one thing, but when we design a program for an entire ecosystem, I think listening before acting is very important. When you design a program, I heard somebody in Burkina Faso, they got this money, funding, whatever, public toilets, right? And they put in this European style toilets, and eventually nobody started using it. They used it as a storage unit, because this doesn't work. Like, some things you can imagine and it sounds good, and you can build you can even get money for it, but it doesn't work because it's not part of the culture, it's not part of the way that you use things. You are not listening to the people that are actually there with an actual need. So listening tools, let me say this way, before designing anything for a particular ecosystem. And then because obviously the first version of anything is not perfect. So we need to have this adaptive design in mind as well. So have flexibility built into the system that you're operating. So I love working with Chandler because he does this a lot. So he builds something, he figures something out, he starts running with it, and then he gets the feedback and it's like, you know what, let's do this way. And then we reflect, we come up with another plan, we start running that, we take again the reflections and say, okay, maybe that way. So I think that is very, very important to have this reflective, flexible, iterative way of building. Many people are stopped. So on the individual level, now let me go back to the individual again. On an individual level, the funder often stops, not because they don't have the resources, but because the prototype they built wasn't good enough, and they don't dare to release it because they're afraid. But the fact is, nothing started in perfection. Everything is imperfect that we build. So as humans, so we need to give grace to ourselves and say that, listen, it's not the perfect version, but let me see who wants to sign up for this, because there are investors who are looking for that. Many people get investments on ideas, not even a prototype. So how come that you look at your own prototype that you built with blood, sweating blood, and you say that is not worthy enough to present it to an investor? Like, no, we need to stop that as well. So that's the individual level, that's the iterative process. Release, keep releasing your programs, and then take feedback in and iterate. And then, yeah, basically, another thing that I always say, again, it's going to be on an individual level, but I will build it to the ecosystem as well and make it. And this is the last thing I say. So when you are running a marathon, there is a super important vision in the end. You see the goal, the end line, where the race finishes. You have it in mind, but you can't necessarily always see it. So when you are running, there are two things that you do. I mean, at least I do. I'm not a big runner, but when I used to run, to prepare myself forward, two things I was doing. So I shifted visions. So I either looked forward and looked at the vision, or I looked down to my feet and see that is moving. So both things can give you the energy to move. So I think that's the same thing for an ecosystem. Sometimes we have this, I'm going to shift the world, I'm going to change the world. And I truly believe we can. But at the same time, I need to look down and see, wait, hang on a minute. Where did I come from? How far I went? Because sometimes that feeling in us, when we just look at the vision, we're like, we are still so far away, you know. I don't know where it's going to end. Like, how I'm going to get there? That's the moment you need to shift your paradigm and look down and say, wait, hang on a minute. I came from quite far away. I'm actually moving still. Like, I'm actually, so yeah, these are the three things I would say.
I totally love your example of the marathon. I think I'm going to use it myself. Okay, look, yes, I run every day, every morning. Yes.
Wow. So do you use this actually when you're running? Do you use this shift to keep you on the road?
No.
Not
no,
anymore.
It's the first time, yes, that I hear about this perspective,
okay.
and I'm gonna try it tomorrow morning.
I'm not a runner, so for me it's a big struggle to run. So that's why I'm shifting paradigm. Like, I'm looking forward and looking down. Yeah.
But there is an example. For example, I come from Canada, and when you travel from east to the west, you see the mountains of the west of Canada for 3 days driving. Can you imagine? You see them because it's so flat. And you say, well, you're never going to arrive, but you eventually do. So
that's amazing.
Thank you so much, Chrissy. We only have 5 minutes, and we like to finish our sessions with you can choose. Okay, option A or B. Either one tip, the most important tip you would give founders, or the other one, just a word for the end if you would like something to say that we haven't had the chance to speak about today. Or you can have, if you manage to say both in 5 minutes, then please feel free.
So what was the first one? Sorry.
If you had one tip to give, the most important thing for entrepreneurs starting a project.
Just start it. That's it. It sounds ridiculous, but so many people live in their minds, and you need to understand that the ideas you have is probably brilliant. It's probably really, really useful, and the world probably needs it, and you probably can actually make it. But the thing is, until it's not manifested outside of your brain, it's just an entertaining thought. It's not an actual reality. So you need to actually start to build it and selling your first version of it, and start not even just selling, just prototyping, just bringing it out there. Yeah, that's it.
That's
It's as simple as
beautiful.
it is.
Yes, entertaining thought. That's good. Well, Christy, oh, Chandler, did you have any question, or would you like to add something? Or anybody else in the room?
Yeah, and anybody else want to? First, we can ask if there's any questions, but you know, you hear all from me a lot. Rosemary or Erica, Felipe.
Hello.
Hi, Rosemary.
Hi. I can't really think of a question right now. Just really enjoyed the presentation. When I was introducing myself, I forgot to say that I was from the Transform Network as well. So it's just amazing to hear these inspirational business stories, and I'm very blessed to be here. Thank you.
God bless you, Rosemary. I know we work together on some business, I mean her businesses, and she's also very, very supportive, very encouraging. It's so good to be in a network of people who are encouraging and pouring into you, isn't it? So yeah, thank you so much, Rosemary, for joining and always encouraging me as well.
Thank you too. It's been an amazing encouragement to me too.
Well, Krisztina, it's always a pleasure to see you. Of course, I wish we got more time together, and we will. And as you were speaking, I literally am working on a deal for us anyway. So,
Come on. you and your good. Listen, guys, if you ever work with Chandler, please do, because every time you talk to him, he's gonna bring up some good news, and you're just like, how did you manage to achieve that? Like, how? Yeah, God bless you.
You're gonna love it, Krisztina. So we'll be working together before you know it.
Yeah,
This is
we
really
always
where it
do.
happens, because we will have the team now. So more to
Fantastic.
come. Love seeing you. Thank you so much for taking this time, and for everybody that's going to watch this later, you know, make sure, Krisztina, how do we reach out to you? How do we connect with you?
Yeah, just on LinkedIn probably, which is my name. I'm just gonna pop it in the chat as soon as I manage to get my Zoom back on proper size. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, basically on LinkedIn, but I think most of the people here already connected to me. But I wanted to ask a question, Chandler, from you, like from your experience, if you can, in the remaining of
Yeah,
2 minutes, share. Because you went from the US and then now you are basically, well, I know you are home at the moment, are
yeah,
you?
but
No,
I'm heading back on Monday.
exactly. You are in Brazil, so you are actually gapping, like you actually shifted from the US market, which is a very different, very open, very liberal market, to a very conservative market. So if you can tell us more about that cultural shift and experience, because I think that's brilliant. That's a really
Yeah,
like, big challenge.
it's been a big challenge. It's been a big learning experience for me. I think you know, the biggest difference, I think, in the US, um, being an entrepreneur and having a bunch of ventures, some that have failed, some that have been successful, is really looked at as a benefit, as a plus. It's experience, it's track record, right? Brazil isn't quite as forgiving in failures, and they remember it's a small, you know, it's a small group of people that hold, just like in the US, a large part of the money. And so the networks where you find these people are small, and they are familial, and hierarchical, and you have to go through a lot of gates, and nobody is willing to believe until they see it,
Yes.
because because imagine, you know, a history of a country who the US and the global north looks, and even Africa. So we talked about South America and Africa. We're in regions where the global north looks down and says, we're better than you. And I've experienced that. Some of our partners in Europe have just decided not to pay us because they're like, oh, like, it wasn't that much, weren't, whatever. But they think it's because they're smarter than us, and this perspective, it's, as an American, as a gringo, which is not a negative thing in most, I think the biggest challenge was, how do you build trust in a place that people always say they're going to do these things, but they don't see it, and we don't want to be the saviors, so we have to really think, how do we work together to build this? And that's why I'm going back down, because you have to show your face. That's the biggest difference. It's whatever deal you want, if your partner, if they trust you.
Yeah, that's so
same
true.
for leading people, right?
So true, so true. That's amazing, Chandler. And yeah, I think you captured it very well about the US, that failure is kind of like a building stone, like a step ahead,
like a scar, battle wound,
like exactly, to show that you went through things and now you are wiser. But then in the EU as well, because we are very conservative as well in the EU, for us is like, yeah, you didn't make it, so yeah,
you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, I don't know what you're doing. I'm not talking to you, but I'm in general talking that, we want to see the success before we put trust in someone. It's not enough to show values. It's not enough to show face even. It's I want you. And that's even the funding. When EU funds are given, you have to have a track record already of doing things. So we rarely fund things in Europe, which is early stage, where angels is not very common. It's more common in the US that just an idea gets funding and they get a lot of money on it.
Exactly.
That faith, that belief, that what the America is built on, isn't it? Yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing.
Well, what a wonderful session today. I guess we can say thank you very much, Krisztina, for your time. We, of course, love getting this time with you, and we love having you a part of our family at 360 here. And to everybody that joined, and we'll see this later. Thank you so much. We have one more session left this season, I think, right, Klausi?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Next Wednesday?
Next Thursday, especially.
That's right.
Yes.
Oh.
With Marta Plasencia, who is a doctor, and she has a PhD in. I don't want to say anything wrong, but I can say that she is going to speak about design thinking and innovation in life science.
She's currently at Albert
Einstein
Hospital
Institute.
here in
I remember her very well.
Yeah.
I met her. I remember her very, very well. She's fantastic. I should log into that, because that's part of the iterative things that I was talking about, the design and the human-centered building, that you don't just come up with an idea and then it's actually not going to work, like the toilet in that city or village. Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Krisztina. Let's keep in touch.
Yes. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody.